that the growth, GDP growth will be greater than the credit growth. Normally it should be the other way, but because there is just so much of flows, it's easier to list. Number of companies listing is going up, amount of money that's being raised through the IPO market is very high. So a lot of people, the normal posture may be to say, how can I use equity or accruals as a basis to expand, especially when you see so much of global volatility, rather than using debt. But having said that, I think we've seen in the first quarter where things were slow because of things that we discussed, and also monsoons that came a bit earlier. Credit growth is 9 to 10%. I think not much greater on the personal credit side and housing loan side, but overall I think credit growth is still there. So I'm hopeful that India should have good credit growth, but I think general averseness to debt is definitely there.
Sir, Tarun Sharma from Z Business. So first of all, sir, congratulations. So I have two questions. पहला सर, आपने जो PLI की बात करी, तो सर क्या आपको challenges लग रहे हैं और क्या मुश्किलें लग रही हैं जिसको सरकार को एड्रेस करना चाहिए? दूसरा सर, आपने डिसइन्वेस्टमेंट की बात करी, आपने कहा 5 लाख करोड़ के आसपास डिसइन्वेस्टमेंट 10% भी होता है, तो उसको एफिशिएंटली यूज कर सकता है। तो सर क्या आपको लग रहा है जो अभी पेस है, क्योंकि एयर इंडिया के बाद हमने कोई बड़ा डिसइन्वेस्टमेंट सरकार की तरफ से नहीं देखा है, तो आपको क्या लग रहा है कि जो अभी का जो पेस है वो एक्सेलरेट होना चाहिए, क्योंकि बैंक्स, इंश्योरेंस कंपनीज, हिंदुस्तान से कई ऐसे फैक्टर।
सो जो एयर इंडिया था वो एक अलग था, वो तो स्ट्रेटेजिक से था, तो मैं उसमें तो फिर भी अभी गवर्नमेंट IDBI की तरफ देख रही है, कब होता है कैसे होता है वो देखना पड़ेगा। बट मार्केट लेड डिसइन्वेस्टमेंट, कुछ कंपनियों के आपने नाम लिए, वो तो काफ़ी आराम से हो सकता है। और अभी तो मेरे को कोई इतनी एक्टिवली कोई ऐसा दिख नहीं रहा है कि गवर्नमेंट कर रही है। थोड़ा बहुत आई थिंक गवर्नमेंट को भी RBI से बड़ा अच्छा डिविडेंड मिला है इस साल, तो थोड़ा बहुत फिस्कल पोजीशन गवर्नमेंट की काफ़ी ठीक हालत में है। मतलब पिछले हम लोगों को ये लग रहा है कि शायद जो फिस्कल डेफिसिट उन्होंने बोला था शायद उससे कम हो। अगर इंडिया का GDP ग्रोथ वो नंबर रहता है तो शायद उससे कम हो, तो वो फिस्कल प्रेशर नहीं है करने को। बट अगर करें तो मेरे को लगता है उस पैसे को ज़्यादा बेहतर तरीके से यूज़ किया जा सकता है, और नई इंडस्ट्रीज़ में सपोर्ट किया जा सकता है, MSMEs में सपोर्ट किया जा सकता है, जहाँ पे इंडिया की सप्लाई चेन डिपेंडेंस है, जहाँ पे लॉन्ग टर्म इन्वेस्टमेंट चाहिए वहाँ पे सपोर्ट किया जा सकता है। तो वो मेरे ख्याल से हम लोग का ये मानना है कि वो इंडिया को क्रिएट करना चाहिए। इसकी बात हुई भी है, कई बार हुई भी है, बट आई एम श्योर उनको इम्प्लीमेंटेशन में जरूर कुछ अड़चने आ रही होगी जिसके कारण वो नहीं कर रहे। जो स्टार्टअप फंड है वो अच्छा चल रहा है, वो अच्छी तरीके से डिप्लॉय हुआ है। MSME का जो फंड है वो उतनी अच्छी तरीके से नहीं डिप्लॉय हुआ है, तो उसको और देखना चाहिए। आपका पहला सवाल क्या है? हाँ, PLI में देखिए अलग अलग नाम से PLI की 18 स्कीमें हैं, उनमें से मेरा मानना है 5 या 6 काफ़ी ठीक चल रही है, और इलेक्ट्रॉनिक्स वाली तो बहुत ही अच्छी चली, सेमीकंडक्टर भी अच्छे, सॉफ्टवेयर गुड स्टार्ट, ड्रोन्स वाली 90-95% यूटिलाइज हो गई, उसका हम लोग ने इम्पैक्ट देखा भी अभी क्या है। तो PLI स्कीम्स कुछ अच्छी चली है, कईयों में हर एक में एक अलग अलग तरह के इश्यूज हैं। कुछ ये है कि जो लोकलाइजेशन नॉर्म्स गवर्नमेंट ने दिए थे वो काफ़ी एग्रेसिव थे, तो वो नहीं था। कई जगह जो रिक्वायरमेंट्स थी क्वालिफिकेशन की, एलिजिबिलिटी की, उसमें तकलीफ थी। तो मेरा हम लोग का CII में जो हम लोग बोल रहे हैं कि इन PLI स्कीम्स खासकर जैसे टेक्सटाइल्स हो, जहाँ पे अगेन जहाँ लेबर इंटेंसिव मैन्युफैक्चरिंग या जहाँ पे एडवांस मैन्युफैक्चरिंग का केस है, मैंने कंप्रेसर्स की बात की, वहाँ पे गवर्नमेंट को इन सब चीज़ों को थोड़ा सा और ट्वीक करना पड़ेगा, और गवर्नमेंट कर भी रही है, देख भी रही है। अभी 2-3 दिन पहले टेक्सटाइल मिनिस्टर का कमेंट भी आया कि वो देख रहे हैं, वो देख भी रही है कि उससे उसको ट्वीक कर कर वो मनी यूटिलाइज हो, क्योंकि आपने 3 लाख करोड़ रुपए का बोला कि हम खर्च करेंगे, उसमें से अभी तक 25 से 26, अब एक्चुअल डेटा तो नहीं आया पर हम लोग ने रफली डेटा ऐड करके देखा, 25 से 26 हज़ार करोड़ यूटिलाइज हुआ है। सबसे बड़ा एलोकेशन सेमीकंडक्टर को अभी स्टार्ट हुआ है, 4 कंपनी हुई हैं, बट वो मेरे ख्याल से वो आस्ते आस्ते जाकर अगर उसको करें तो PLI अगर ठीक से इम्प्लीमेंट, उसका फ़ायदा बहुत है जो हम लोग इलेक्ट्रॉनिक्स में देखते हैं।
Us two are told that we'll have to give some time for lunch.
Sir, first of all, many congratulations. Harsh Kumar from Business Standard Newspaper. Sir, a couple of questions. One is related to FM announced one of the credit assessment model for MSMEs in the budget. So I think that has been launched as well in a coordination with the public sector banks. So what kind of response like industry is getting from that model? Also, sir, related to that 45 days payment rule which came last year, so how's it is going? What's the progress on that? And third is related to sir disinvestment thing. DPAM came with a notification to hire some banking merchants and legal merchants to accelerate this process. And in one of the interview with the Business Standard, only the DPAM secretary told that we are planning to dilute over around 20%, like individually each banks to fulfill the minimum public shareholding norms. So do you think that market has that much appetite to dilute this much kind of stake?
Yeah. So maybe I'll start with disinvestment and then I'll go on this side. I think you have almost 35 to 40 billion dollars of new money that's coming through SIPs. So and FI money, some private equity money will also come in. So I don't think, obviously, there could be time. Yeah, you have to, a lot of this is about timing. But overall, I don't think that there is any limitation of money that cannot absorb some of this. You cannot, maybe you cannot absorb. As I said, the value of stock that government owns is close to $500 billion. If you look at 10%, it's $50 billion. Maybe you can't absorb everything at one go, but over a period of time, $5 to $10 billion a year, I don't think it's that difficult for the government to. And a lot of them are quality paper. Obviously, you have to time, you have to do things. Some of them are stakes that the government has in some of leading companies of India, leading mining company, leading EPC company, leading consumer companies. There is no reason why these cannot be easily monetized. What was the second question?
45 days payment.
45 days payment, I believe it is effective. Some MSMEs have, in our MSME council, have said that because of this, sometimes companies don't want to work with MSMEs or others, but fine. In the CII code also we have said that, and I'm now seeing lots of good companies are actively monitoring how much MSMEs they are engaging with. And I think whosoever is, because otherwise, even when you're doing the auditors also look at it, there's compliance is not there, it's reflected separately in the auditor's report. So people are reasonably, at least I would say the companies having good governance practices are reasonably careful, and I think there is a positive impact that is happening on cash flows. Public sector companies are big consumers of MSME, so there also there is positivity there. That is there. On the credit assessment model, I'm not sure what the impact of that has been. The credit guarantee one was very successful, which the government did along with CII. One happened during COVID, which was very successful. And then after COVID, they did the credit guarantee one. I think that was very successful. A lot of MSMEs are using it, have utilized it. And if you actually look at CII's balance sheet, that's really grown because of that. I'm not sure about the credit.
We're really hard pressed for time, but Ashish, you wanted to ask about the MSME. Is it an additional question, Ashish? Or yeah, please go ahead. And I'll close with you, Sanjay. Yeah.
First of all, you give a lot of space to MSMEs. That's good to see. So my question is in fact two questions. The first one is you mentioned in your slides also that there should be introduction of capital support in different forms. You mentioned in the form of interest-free loans and other things. You are also mentioning at the same time that some of the funds that have been issued, announced by the government in the past, maybe that is what you wanted to say, not been completely used. My question is that when we talk about the support in the form of loans, shouldn't we also be focusing on the other aspect, that is collateral and documentation, sir? Two parts that create a lot of problem for the MSMEs. I've been covering MSMEs for some time now, going through the country and finding it that collateral is one of the issue, and along with that is documentation. The other part is for the MSMEs different from the finance thing. After the magnet, we have seen China imposing restrictions in terms of non-subsidized fertilizers, especially the soluble ones, water soluble ones. So what we found out was the problem is also in terms of Inspector Raj for the MSMEs, in terms of the licenses. If you give me some time, I can explain. For example, if you have a company operating unit in Delhi, and you want to supply a product to Haryana, you should have a license in that state. That means categorically you have to have licenses in 29 states, and the central licenses are different, sir. And for the importer, it's very easy. A couple of licenses, maybe one of the licenses from DGFT, it will do enough. So why would anyone be interested in making the products inside India when it's easy to import them? What are your views? Thank you.
No, I completely agree. I'm in your camp. I think as CII, CB was mentioning also, we've represented this to the government. I think we're aware of this issue. And as I said, now I think the real simplification that is required is, I tried to give some examples of that in the presentation. I know it's not interesting, but these are the kind of issues that are there. Multiple, going in every state, taking approval, 150 approvals if we have to do this, 175 approvals. Large companies still have people to do it. MSMEs really struggle. And I think it's a big deterrent. It also slows down capex. It slows down expansion. It increases your cost. It adds a lot of complexity. So absolutely right. And I think we are spending a lot of time with MSMEs to try and capture this feedback. CI also works with a lot of the sector-specific councils, and those sectors and local associations. So those local associations, sector-specific councils, also are bringing up these issues, and along with them, I think a lot of the engagement, I would say, especially with the Commerce Ministry, has been very high on some of these. Every 1 or 2 months, I think these issues are being laid out. But so I agree with you on the. So I think the other is the National Single Window Clearance. I think there also, I think government is, central government is not very happy that it's not being adequately utilized. So we are pushing for that utilization. We are also trying to say that the center and state National Single Window Clearance should be same. So if you actually saw in the presentation, both in labor and in environment, we are saying that there should be one compliance area, whether it's section or whatever, there's one area where you can capture all the compliances, both sectors. That's there. You're right on collateral, that is a big issue in MSMEs, and personal guarantees, collaterals, and that's why this MSME credit guarantee thing was quite helpful. And there, I think Siddhi cushioned a lot of the risk and provided the credit to banks, taking the first level risk, and then the banks were onward lending. So whatever I understand from Siddhi, I think now the credit growth in MSME is moving up quite a bit. But I completely agree. That's why we also said that the equity funding, debt for equity funding of MSME should be provided. And MSMEs need capital. It's not easy for them to raise capital. Earlier you had development financial institutions. In fact, one of the recommendations we were saying that India should be setting up, we didn't mention that, a DFI kind of structure for MSMEs.
We have to close, and therefore we will close with Sanjay, your question.
Yes, sir. This is Sanjay from Arab News. My question is about the India and Middle East relationship. It has been growing over the years, and proximity has been growing. The question is that are there some new priorities for Indian businesses in the Middle East, particularly Saudi Arabia? What new opportunities are you identifying there? Is there something new in that direction? These are the two questions I have.
So I think if you were to look at the highlights of the Indian foreign policy over the last 5 years, you would say strengthening of the relationship between India and Middle East, and in particular United Arab Emirates and Saudi Arabia, KSA, I think is there. So I think definitely that is, I know that is strategically, India gives it a massive priority. It is strategically something that's very important for India. As you know, the first level of relationship was India providing a lot of the human resources in some of these countries, and also in particular UAE being a very important source of capital, and also for some of the resources like oil and gas, I think both Saudi. So if you look at India's trade deficit, India's trade numbers, I think Saudi is pretty large and India has a big trade deficit with Saudi, which means that India is buying a lot of oil from Saudi. So that relationship is now expanding. I'm seeing now more and more Indian companies set up in Saudi, more and more Indian companies setting up in Middle East, and they are seeing a much better business environment than what we have seen before. So if you just look at L&T as an example, if you were to analyze the order book of L&T and see and two of them got announced in Qatar. I can't remember the exact number, but they won a contract of $18 to $20 billion. In Saudi, I think they are doing they are winning a lot of the projects. In Oman, we know that some of the companies are looking at setting up chemicals for battery. In Oman, we are seeing some companies looking at hydrogen hubs acting. Then in Saudi, in hotels, in hospitals, we are seeing Indian companies set up. A lot of Indian MSMEs being set up there. I think what the Indian companies are asking for is trying to say how the approval process can be accelerated. So if you want to be in the value chain of Saudi Aramco, how can that approval process be better accelerated so that we can do that? But I would say generally the appetite and the interest of Indian companies looking at Middle East has gone many folds up. And I think the FTAs that India has also signed and is in the process of signing, that's also helped a lot. Because FTAs, one is obviously it reduces tariff, but it also signals to both the business people on both sides and the governments on both sides that there is a willingness, eagerness, and inclination to trade and invest in each other much more. From Saudi's side, I think they are obviously keen to look and try and see how they can invest more in the energy sector in India, and there are multiple conversations that have happened over the last many years. All of us are aware of some of those that have been captured in the press. But hopefully something more meaningful in terms of investments, PIF investing and others investing will happen. In UAE, as you know, Ardia is a big investor, PNO is a big investor, some financial services companies are part of the IDBI process. So there seems to be much greater business activity that's happening between India and Middle East. And also some of the Indian companies are also looking at setting up in Middle East, particularly in UAE, in Abu Dhabi, to try and see how we can use that as a hub to export, especially as they go into Africa.
Thank you very much.